Registration is now open for both of my spring camps. I run Tejas Sports Academy, a sports academy right here in Sylvan Lake. Currently, I have registration open for my spring basketball and spring football camps. You can go to Tejas Sports Academy on Facebook for all details, including registration link, costs, dates, times, etc. Tejas Sports Academy on Facebook.
Most of us hear a game plan for football, but won't financially plan out our lives. 1 in 4 Canadians are unable to cover an unexpected expense of over $500. This is due to Canadians currently having concerns over things like debt, cash flow concerns, retirement concerns, and possibly even job security. And for some of the young Canadians out there, they always wonder on what does it take or what does it look like to get started. My name is Omari Fraser, and I've been in the financial services industry for just shy of 10 years. I'm fortunate to be in a spot to where I'm able to help educate fellow Canadians on what you can do to move forward and get yourself in a spot that's going to take you to your financial goals. Feel free to reach out to me at 403-467-2306 or reach out to me on Instagram to get the conversation started and taking a look at what a financial plan looks like for you. Take care. Enjoy the episode.
Welcome to Alberta Football Uncensored. I'm your host, Tej Johannesson. With me, as always, is my co-host, Omari Fraser. Omari, we're going to just kind of jump right into this episode today because I'm excited on really on a personal level to learn more about the women's game, the women's game of football. Haven't had the opportunity to coach many women in my life, but I have had the opportunity to coach one who was very good, named Bailey Kennedy, who is now a member of the team that we're interviewing today. So we are proud and pleased to be joined by two members of the Calgary Rage football. Omari, I'm going to let you take it from here because you know these two women. I'm going to kind of let you lead, and I'll come in with some questions. So Omari, go ahead and introduce our guests, and we'll go from there.
Yes, I'm definitely pumped to have these two girls on, Jessica and Erin. I want to welcome you guys to Alberta Football Uncensored, and I just want to share a bit. Like I got a story here for us with Jess here. Jess, I know you played with the Calgary Wolfpack for a little bit because I know there was that one year there was I think it was a lockout. I guess the season didn't happen, and a lot of the girls were looking to still play football. And I remember Jess coming to play with the Wolfpack, and she fit right in. She was on the D line, applying pressure, making tackles and everything, and she definitely was a force to be reckoned with. And just one of those things where like the football community is so tightly knit. It was just a small world and everything. And I know I've had my share of helping out at rage camps and everything, and it's been awesome to see Aaron yourself play as well. And I know you've been quite a veteran to the game, so I'm looking forward to hearing more of your guys' story and just seeing the game develop and your guys' perspective on it. But I want to welcome you both, Jessica and Aaron. Welcome to Alberta Football Uncensored.
Oh, thanks for having us.
Thank you.
And to dive right in, I want to hear both of your football story. Jess, I just mentioned you. So Aaron, I want you to dive into a little bit of your football story and what brought you to the game of football and just your journey you've seen so far.
Sure. Well, that's a long one. I've been around for a while, but I started football. Actually, I came to tackle football through touch football. When I was in university, I was the trainer for the women's basketball team. And so I would assess their injuries and go on road trips with them and went to all their practices. And in the off season, that group of women would typically play touch football to stay in shape and things for the off season. So one of the players one time was like, "Yo, Aaron, you're athletic. We need a center. Want to come learn how to play touch football?" And I've loved football. I was a Rider fan. Don't hate me. I'm born in Saskatchewan girl. So, we were season ticket holders from when I was like 13, 14, all the way up until my parents gave them up when my dad got sick a few years ago. So I started playing touch football and I became a center, and I could snap. I can roll snap. I can snap about 10, 15 yards on a roll if I need to. And then they realized I could throw. And so I started to get trained up as a quarterback in touch football. And for a few years, I played in the Regina Leagues. And then I moved to Calgary for work. And there was a Calgary touch football league, and I was playing in that for a couple seasons, and I met a friend of mine, and she was playing for the Calgary Rage, which was a women's
Mhm.
tackle football team. And I was super intrigued. I was like, "Oh man, do they want a quarterback?" And they were like, "No, they want a running back." And so I never, I'm a southpaw, so that's always been harder for me in tackle football or whatever. Not a lot of coaches are either comfortable or can really develop a lefty sometimes. So I started as a running back, and that was the same year that Team Canada was announced, which was 2010. And I tried out. I was fortunate to make that team. I made it again as a member of the O-line in 2013. I've tried out for every national team. I love football. My goal is to play until I'm 50. We'll see if my body actually holds up. I turn 45 this weekend. So, um, you know, it's a game that has taught me more about life than I could have ever imagined. And I just hope that I can give back to football as much as it's given me in my life. I've loved my journey in football, and and I'm just pumped that I get to keep playing it.
That's awesome to hear. And to from what I'm hearing is you're I guess you're taking inspiration from Tom Brady wanting to play till you're 50, right?
Yeah, well, I didn't actually start playing tackle until I was 31. I think, right before the podcast started, we were chatting a little bit, and I said I was that girl who had to hear a lot of no's when I was little, so a lot of the young girls now can hear all the yeses. And I truly believe that I wanted to play hockey. They wanted me to play ringette. I wanted to play baseball. They tried to force me into softball, and that always just seemed to be the story. You can't play this because you're not a boy. That was the theme for me growing up because I'm a 79 baby. I'm a cusper right into the 80s, and a lot of those sports things didn't start to change for girls until the late 80s, early 90s, where hockey opened up, and then um, the avenues to soccer, and the avenues to all the games that became both genders. Football is kind of the final frontier with that, I think. It was like the ultimate boys game. And now we have a shot, and we've been getting a shot for a while. I think now we're just becoming so much more prominent in the media and through social media because of the initiatives, the wonderful initiatives being rolled out by the CFL and things like that right now to actually grow women into the game.
Absolutely, and then there's been a big part here too, because you said that because one of the other players, Katrina, she's
Mhm.
also been really most in some on the CFL level and some coaching and everything. And I know she couldn't make it with us here today, but I'm sure she would love to share her role in those impacts and initiatives. Um, and like I want to dive into it's like some of the your story and history with hearing a lot of the no's because it I can only imagine being in that time and hearing all the no's and it's as frustrating as it sounded. How did you handle that? How did you navigate that time? And was there ever a point where you're like, one day I'm really gonna stick it um to all the people who said no and prove them wrong? Because I'm sure at some point, as every human being, we always hate hearing no and we want to do what we want to do, and especially where we have that passion for it. So I'd love to hear some times you where he got that chance to really stick it to a coach, stick it to a sports figure, anything like that.
Well, I think, it was one of those things where my coaches, I was a basketball player. I played all the sports in school. I was just always, one of my gifts I was blessed with athleticism. I've always been an athletic person. And so, you know, I had always wanted to. I think, my coaches knew deep down, like, the coaches that coached football in a small town were also the coaches that coached basketball and volleyball. So they knew that you were an athlete. I think, the social pressures and just, where we were, it just didn't, it, I don't know. They were always so scared about the girls getting hurt, us not being as tough as the guys. And um, so after I did make Team Canada in 2010 and 2013, and I've passed, crossed paths with a few of those coaches, and they've all, kind of said to me, look, like, we feel bad that we didn't let you play in high school. Looking back on it now, we wish we would have. And and it's nice to hear that recognition. And I was an adult, or really well into adulthood by the time tackle football rolled back into my purview for an actual option to participate in. So for me, when I played basketball, one of my basketball coaches, she told me, Aaron, your job is to be the hammer, not the nail, right? You got to play basketball like you're a bull in a china shop, right? Breaking all that glass. And I always took that to heart. So whenever I play football, no matter who I'm against, whether it's in touch, flag, or tackle, I'm like, you're the hammer and I'm the nail, or I'm the hammer and you're the nail. And that's just how I approach the game.
There's a couple interesting things you said there that I want to kind of touch on, Aaron, and I think a lot of people in general, male or female, can learn from it. But first off, I'll say I think a lot of those coaches, who said no to you, they were. I'll send them a little bit of forgiveness because they were definitely a product of their time. I think, like you said, and I think it's an excellent point. You heard a lot of no's so that girls today, could hear a lot of yeses, and and I think that's really important. And so I think that more coaches are starting to realize this. I've coached girls sports in my life. Actually, I'm a football, but also I've been a basketball coach longer than I've been a football coach. And I actually started with grade 7 and 8 girls. That was my very first ever coaching job. 21 years old, I coached grade 7
Oh
and
my
8
gosh.
basketball girls. And I'll tell you, that was probably one of the most valuable experiences of my life, like coaching, grade 7 and 8 girls. But what I learned quickly was not only are girls extremely tough, extremely aggressive, but they don't whine.
Hmm.
There's not whining. There's not you coach boys basketball, and we all know this. It's the sound effects, it's the whining, it's the complaining. You don't get that from girls. You get the same kind of physical. In fact, I'd say you even get a little bit more aggression. Like, girls are more willing to like dive for jump balls, or like
Yeah.
dive for balls on the floor. And I've just always personally noticed that as a coach, I can get more out of girls than I can get out of boys, because their ego's kind of gone, and girls are willing to do the things you ask them. So I feel like we just didn't really give them the chance. And so I appreciate people like you that, you're 45 and still playing football, which is in of itself is amazing. Not many people can say that, regardless of gender, but or regardless of sex. But I just wanted to point those things out. So first of all, thank you for doing what you're doing and sticking with it. And also, I hope that narrative is behind us, that
Hmm.
girls aren't as tough as boys, because I think I can make the argument it might be the opposite.
Oh yeah, I've like literally seriously some of the women that I've had the opportunity to play against from other teams from around the world, because when you have the opportunity to make a national team, you're playing with the best from the best from every part of the world that can make those tournaments work for them, right? And it's to see how tough and how amazing some of the athletes are, that play this sport. It's beautiful to have seen how the game has grown so fast over the last 5 years. The WWCFL, our league, we took a hit with COVID. We had 2020 canceled, and then 2021 was also canceled just because of the state that it left some of our teams in. So, when I look at our league, we're still rebuilding a little bit, and right now is the opportunity for that big flood of growth with the U19 programs and the bantam age groups that we're putting a lot of development work into right now. That's the future. I love to play that. I want to play the game for as long as I can, because I can see the talent coming up, and I want to be teammates with those people. Like some of those girls that we have on the Rays that are like 16, like I line up with them against them in practice, and they just stare me down, and they're like half my size, and they tackle me. And like you said, like they're aggressive, they want that. And I don't know about
Hmm.
your experience with boys, but I know with mine, like between coaching boys and coaching girls, a boy is always just going to go think what you like, he's going to do what you think he wants to, like you guys want him to do, right? Where a girl is going
Hmm.
to be like, well, how many steps is a slant? right? When you say a 90 in, is that a sharp or is that like a banana, right? Like girls will ask those questions where a boy is just going to go run what he thinks he should run, and it's either going to be right or wrong, right? Like,
That's
you know,
so funny that you say
right?
that, because that is
Like,
so 100%
yeah,
true. It's like, and I have to, that is just like one of the most true things, because I'll have to explain when I'm coaching, especially in my camps that I coach, like, okay, we're gonna run a slant. If you don't know what this terminology means, or if you don't, please ask. And no one
yeah,
asks. The
yeah,
boys are not, but the girls will. The girls will
yeah,
and then the girls will do it right quicker.
yeah,
It happens all the
yeah,
time. The girls will do it right quicker. That's so funny they mention it.
yeah.
Jessica, sorry, you've been sitting around. Sorry, we've been kind of talking. Can you introduce yourself to the podcast and kind of go on your football story as well?
Hi, so I'm Jessica. I've been playing with the Rage since 2018. I was actually recruited by Nate Kettles, who you guys had on here a couple of weeks ago or
Oh,
something.
great. Yeah.
Yeah, so he came up to me and he's like, "Hey, like you work out and like you look like you're pretty tough. Like, do you want to come try football?" And after my first camp, the head coach came to me and he was like, "So, do you wanna try and get a ball and smash people legally?" And I was like, "Where do I sign up?" And, it's funny because I had to come out all the way to Calgary to find out that there was a women's tackle football team in Montreal that I could have been playing before I moved out here,
Oh, wow.
the Montreal Blitz. And then so I was just like, "Man," and then I found out the Rage has been around since 2009, and I was like, "Where was I? Why didn't you find me sooner?" So, like, honestly, I just fell in love with it. I've played, like, every sport you could think of growing up. Kind of the same story as Aaron. I had a twin brother, so, like, I usually played a lotta sports with him, but then, "No, men's, or boys hockey is too aggressive. You need to go play with the girls." And, I played ringette, and, where I really shined growing up was, water polo. I made it to the junior
Mm.
national team. I got to go to Germany and compete. So that was pretty awesome. That was right about my last year of high school, I think I did that. So, and then after that stopped, I kinda had nothing. So, for me to come to Calgary and find this amazing sport that I absolutely adore with a bunch of awesome women who are now my sisters, like, it's just been so much. It's just been great. I love it. And,
Yeah.
what was it? 2021 was the year that I came to play for, um the Wolf Pack because we didn't have a season, and Coach Aaron, was just like, "Yeah, come on out," and he played for the Wolf Pack, so that was really fun. I
Aaron
played.
Romilly?
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, and then so I actually played linebacker that year because there was no way I was going up against, like, 300-pound men on the
I
D-line.
I swear I thought it was D-line. I thought it was D-line, but either way, I saw you making tackles and, like, you were in there, and I was like, "Okay, here we go."
Oh, yeah, I remember it was the Cold Lake game, and I had the most tackles of the game, and I'm like, "Man, we drove, like, 8 hours for this, and I'm the one showing you boys up?" Like,
That's
oh,
awesome.
yeah.
Oh, that's good.
And, yeah, and then so my first year was 2018 with the Rage, then 2019, I tore my ACL, in our last regular season game, and then we lost our first playoff game, so that was a pretty tough year, and then the next year was COVID, and then, yeah, 2021, played with the men's last year, and then this year, because of my life and the way things are going, I've decided to take the year off. But that's why I'm really focusing on building the Rage, building the brand, building the recognition of women's football. Like, that's why I reached out to you, Amari, because I was like, man, women's football is Alberta football too, right? So,
Yeah, 100%.
yeah, I
And
just want to do everything I can to keep growing this sport.
okay, and so you're not playing this year? this
I
upcoming?
am not playing this year. I
Well,
may go in as like long snapper, special teams or something, but I was in a really rough car accident a few months ago, so
oh, okay.
I just, don't want to get back into it before I'm ready.
Well, I think it's pretty cool that you're still wanting to be a part of it and grow it. And I'm hoping that this podcast can help. We do get quite a few listeners each week, and we'll definitely promote this hard. And I think, just hearing I'm a person that likes people that are passionate about things. And so I can sense the passion in both your voices when you're talking about this. So when other people are passionate about things, it kind of makes me automatically passionate about it. So hopefully we can help you out, because I think that I'm a fan of women's sports in general. Like I said, my first coaching experience was coaching girls, so it's been a really soft part of my heart. I love. My favorite team ever is the women's national soccer team that won bronze in 2012. I was getting up at 2 o'clock in the morning to watch all those games, and I still, and then they won gold the last Summer Olympics, and I'm really looking forward to their tournament here. So I'm a big fan of women's sports in general. I'm kind of annoyed at myself that I haven't looked further into women's football, but I think there is something to say about the fact that it's not talked about enough. So I'm hoping that we can get more people talking about it after this podcast. So I appreciate that. Omari, go ahead.
Yeah, so I want to dive into what's happening in this upcoming season. So I guess give us a little recap of last season, how things how things wrapped up, and I guess the projection for now. Because I'm sure everyone's goal is to win a title, win a championship, and what kind of needs to be what are the steps I needed to take for the Rangers to get to that level, get to that championship spot.
E, do you want to talk about last year? Because I don't know if I want to.
I can take a stab at it. When I look at the Rage, I think one thing that I've always, I've been on this team for so long. 14 years. I spent almost 10 years as an executive member on the board and the secretary position. So when you're a person who's on the board and you're a player, it's a very intimate space to be in a volunteer organization, and so you really get embedded into all things and all both the drama and the amazing stuff. And I think we can all attest that there's drama everywhere in this world. And 23 was a great year for us in terms of um, maturing as an organization in many ways. We did some really great things. We did some things that I think we can always improve upon. On the field level specifically, like I alluded to earlier, we have such a youth movement that's happening right now that we really had a lot of players who were new to the game, but still foundationally athletes. And when I look at the development of women's football, I always try to recruit women who were athletes in a previous life, no matter their age. Do you have some kind of sports background? Because that's going to give you the first piece to understanding athleticism in football. And um, we made it all the way to the championship. We played against a really well-run organization and well-coached team in the Saskatoon Valkyries. I think they just won their eighth. Was it the eighth this year, Jess, that they won out of the
Yeah, of
out of the
course.
12 yeah, out of the 12 years that our league has been around, the Valks have won 8 of the championships. So um, that was tough because as soon as you win a division and you're headed for a championship game, you're like, oh man, we are good. Like we're gonna get there and we're gonna show this team that we're better than they think we are. And they just at this time they just still have more players and there's not a lot to do in Saskatchewan, so they do a lot of football. And they're good at it. They're good at grassroots sports organization over in Saskatchewan, and I think that's where Alberta. I think that's where we, as a football community, can get better for the women's game. Is what we're doing right now, putting that work into the grassroots development. So the Rage had a successful year by standards of making it to the championship. I think when you look at how the season rolled out and how that game rolled out, we know that we're still so far from where we want to be as a football organization, and that's why we show up as volunteers and as players who pay fees to be a part of this team. we do love it. If you're paying to play a game as an adult and you're dedicating 2 to 3 times a week, you're taking that seriously. So that's what we expect, that we have players that take it seriously and we become teammates, and like Jess said, we become sisters, and that doesn't mean it's all peachy keen and perfect, but making it to a championship is always a great driver to trying to make it to that same game the next year. So that's what we're aiming for in 2024.
Well, and also just making it to the championship, like, that was the second time in Rage history that we ever did it, so
Yeah.
we know we're just gonna get better from here. We're just gonna keep growing, keep building, keep funneling and supporting the younger generation, teaching, coaching, like, it's only up from here.
And with that too now, because I guess I'll answer that question at the end. Speaking on looking at 2024, what are some, like, have there been some key recruits, key additions that the team has had that you guys are wanting to share and are excited for?
Oh man, well, I don't know if any of them have officially signed, but we had a camp there a few weeks ago, and I think one of the hardest positions that is to develop in women's tackle football is the position of receiver. It's such a specific skill set, and if you don't have a lot of women who are used to running and catching an object, while running in different directions, it's a really hard skill set to build comfortably. So we had a few basketball players out. That were just lights out, hands, could run routes, had speed. So that's what I'm most excited for, is to see the development of our receivers on this team this year. Anytime you can complement your run game by being able to throw, especially in our league, that's a one of your recipes for success right there. So I'm excited about receivers.
Isn't that an interesting thing? That's just on that. I never thought about that, but the, I'm, I'm a receiver. I play DB too, but I grew up as a receiver. My uncle played receiver in the CFL, and so I was always a receiver. Was always naturally able to catch the ball, but I was throwing the ball with my friends and my parents or my dad all the time, every day, like just always throwing it, and it is something that it's not something that you're really just born good to do, especially like you said, when you add on top of not just catching the thing, but moving and running and catching it while you're looking behind and also trying to run away from people. It is a very specific skill set that I think would be an interesting thing as a coach, and challenging as a coach, I think, to figure out what the right recipe is. And I think for any coaches, I think moving to the women's game would really make you a better coach, because you'd really have to rely on your coaching from a position of people that have maybe no experience at all doing that specific thing, but they have the ability to do it. So that's a really interesting thought.
Yeah, it is. It is one of those skills, right? Like you said, like I'm kind of like you. Like my dad played catch with me as a young child growing up. Receiving, throwing, kicking things, like it's all second nature to me. But you see so many, what happens though, is those ones that can't maybe like catch and run and at the same time, those are just the ones that we put at DBs. So
Yeah.
there's a place
I
for
mean,
everyone.
that's the same in the men's game too, right? That's
Yeah.
the long-standing joke, right? We put the athletic people that can't catch at DB. Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
And
Are you a kicker as well? Because you said kicking. Do you kick?
Yeah, well, I'm not very good at field goals. In a pinch, I can do about 10 or 15 yards, but I can punt. I was always a punter, and I can do kickoffs.
Yeah. Yeah.
Hey,
Cool.
punts are debatable, sometimes you hit or miss, right?
Yeah,
Like
it's like a golf
Hey.
swing. If you raise your eyes too soon, you're not going to hit that ball. And unfortunately, in the game, sometimes that happens. Hey, they're running
All
after
right.
you so fast.
Respect to punters. As a punter myself, I do dabble in the kicking game a little bit as
Yeah.
well, and Punting it's not. I tell my wife this all the time. She knows I love football. She's like, well, my least favorite thing is kicking a field goal or punting because I am just not that confident that I'm going to do it 100. Like I can play DB in my sleep, I can run routes in my sleep. I'm no confidence in it. When you come to kicking it, you're exactly right. It's like a golf swing.
Yeah.
You got to be perfect, and
Yeah.
it's hard to get, especially you're not really doing it. Like I'm not showing up to practice and punting 100 times like these
No.
NFL kickers. That's all they do. So.
Totally. And it always seems to be that one game where for whatever reason, I'm on the sideline, they're like, "Walton, we need you to do this in this game right now." And I'm like, "I haven't punted, I haven't even practiced a punt for
Didn't even do it
and
in
then
warm up.
and yeah, I didn't even do it in warm up. And then you've got these three people sprinting at you and you totally whiff on the ball and it goes 10 yards and you're like, "Man, I know I can hammer that thing," but it's just, it's like anything else there's a reason these guys get paid millions of dollars at the pro level
Yeah.
to literally practice this skill set, right? So that is one of those things. But but Jess, how fast the game is, right? Those,
Oh yeah.
long
Well,
snapping
especially when
too,
it got
that's
thrown into
such
long
a
snapper.
yeah, it's such a specific skill. You have to just rep it so you can
Yeah.
do it, and it just feels like you've only ever done that,
Yeah. Yeah. Well, you think about it, like how many, if you're a receiver, how many reps running routes do you get every practice? You get tons of reps at it every practice.
Yeah.
But if you're also a receiver and a DB and the punter, which most teams are, like high school teams, you don't have
Mhm.
just one guy who's the kicker, right? So they're not, maybe 5 kicks a practice if the coach even gets to special teams that practice, because we all know how that goes, right?
Oh.
Like it does. Sometimes special teams takes a little bit of a back seat because,
It's so
different
funny
things are going on. So.
you say that because I'm helping to coach on our U19 girls team, and I'm talking to the head coach the day before practice. He's like, "Hey, we're gonna do this and this, and then we'll do specials here, blah blah blah." So we're in practice literally on Sunday, and we're doing all these things, and specials not rolling up. I'm like, "Okay, well maybe we're just gonna do specials at the end for conditioning or whatever." I'm there. I go with the flow. I coach where you need me to coach. Literally a half hour after practice, Katrina, who was supposed to be on the call, calls me. She's like, I forgot specials." I'm like, "Dude,"
Yeah.
I'm like, "It's okay. We'll add it to the beginning of the next practice." And so
No, it
She
happens.
said it. No, actually, it was right after practice, and she was like, "Oh shoot, I forgot."
yeah. And so she called me
Yeah.
and she apologized. I was like, "Oh, it's okay, man. I get it.
Yeah.
Who wants to do specials anyway, really?"
Yeah, it does happen. I think it's kinda like a thing that's not talked about often, but,
Yeah.
every head coach is kinda, listening to this right now, "Oh, yeah, no, I've been there."
Right.
It's like, it was in the you know what? It was in the practice schedule, I swear to God, it was in the plan, but,
Yeah.
all of a
Just didn't
sudden,
get
we
to
went
it.
5 minutes along here, 5 minutes along here, and all of a sudden it's gone, yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry, go ahead, Omari.
Oh no, I was gonna say specials is definitely one of those things that always gets missed, but you can always tell the teams that put that extra emphasis on hey, we have to hit our special periods here, and they have those good transitions, and it shows to the field because
Yeah.
it honestly is that third part of the game that some will focus on it, some won't, but
Yep.
you can always tell. I think we can always account for moments where I always like to relate to the Patriots whenever they have their special teams unit because they have guys who just do their job so well in specials, and you rarely see mishaps happen on those ends or on other teams. And all that. One question I wanted to ask now, this is going to be on the recruiting side. What is it? I have a few questions here. What's it like when it comes to recruiting talent for the girls team? Because I'm sure there's girls who you want to get the athletes that come in and play, and they have those athletic skills because it's easy to transfer to the game. And do you find now, is there a best sport that you guys find that transfers well? Is there better skills, or do you prefer those athletes who are just so raw and you guys can form them? Is there a particular area that you guys like?
I know for me, when I'm looking at an athlete that I'm recruiting, for soccer players and hockey players make really great running backs. I've always found in the women's game, basketball players make unbelievable receivers, and quarterbacks, depending on how much of an arm, how much that translates over, and wrestlers tend to make really great linemen. a lot of times. And so for me, it's just what is your body type? What is the skill set you can bring? And are you interested in learning the game? And do you have, I think more than anything, it's can you transfer aggression appropriately, right? Do you understand the aggression of football and how, when we're in a game between the white lines, like you can't turn that aggression off. Like that's just you have to be able to get there. And some people can get there probably on both sides of the game. There's probably some men that quit playing because they couldn't be aggressive enough in football. And it's that controlled violent. Can you be a violent person in a very controlled way? And I find that as long as you're willing to understand what the position that you're going to be in needs from you in terms of how you train for it and prepare for it, you can make pretty much anyone into a football player if they're willing to learn the position that you want them to be in.
Mm-hmm. And with that too, like I'm sure there's been times where you had a recruit come out, come to the camp, and you're like, oh man, well, we're definitely excited to have them, and like they would fit so well in our team and our culture. And I'm sure we've all faced it where like, hey, a recruit doesn't work out. Is there any like disbeliefs you want to address when it comes to girls playing or girls having second doubts or second thoughts? Because I'm sure you've heard in your time in the women's league, I'm sure you've heard a lot of excuses or stories, but what would you say be the one that you like to dispel? And Jess, I'll let you answer one that you have that you've heard, and Aaron, I want you to answer one that you've heard, and I want to just give you guys a chance to put a voice to it. So if someone's listening to this, they can go, "Huh, you know what? They're right," and inch them forward to taking action on playing.
You go first.
Me. Handoff. That's a really great question. I think a lot of the narrative sometimes is that girls or women don't know how to be aggressive or they don't like the aggressiveness of the sport. And that's a bit of a myth that I would like to dispel because I think there's a lot of women that like to tee it up on someone else and when you teach the mechanics and body positioning and how to gauge speed and angles, the aggression, if it's naturally there, is a great asset. And I think if you're a woman and you're listening to this podcast and you have some aggression to get out and you want to do it in a controlled way, come check us out. We can help you.
But yeah, I think really the big thing is it just comes down to be coachable. Like, you ask like what kind of athletes are best. Like, sure, some different sports kind of put you in a better position. But if you have a desire to be around, like to be on an adult sport team and just learn and just like, yeah, that's all I can't speak about aggression personally because I was born with the rage, So this is why I've had red hair for about 8 years. So I wouldn't know really how to speak on that, but I'm just like, if any girls have fears, like there's no harm in coming to check it out. You don't know if you're ready for it, then just come watch and just see how much fun we're having. And then you'll just be like, yeah, I want to be there too.
Love it. And just this is I got through. I want to go a little popcorn style here for you guys. I'm gonna ask three questions on the person that you guys have on the team right now, and just want to hear what the team got. So, when it comes to the rage, who is your fastest player right now?
Fastest?
Yeah.
Like
I
go
I should go through the videos of us doing racing at our March
like
or
I still
January
have
camp.
my speed, but I don't know if I'm the fastest anymore. I'd say Gomes might be our fastest. Lisa Gomes might be our fastest player right now.
Or Morgan. Morgan's pretty fast.
Yeah,
She books it.
Morgan is pretty fast. Yeah.
Morgan's fast, nice. And
Our
then
quarterback,
who
yeah.
is your quarterback? Nice. And then who is your strongest player on the team?
Oh. These are
Me,
hard.
hands down, if I was playing.
Jess. Yeah, probably Jess would be. I'm trying to think. Like, yeah.
How much do you squat, Aaron?
Oh, I don't squat that much anymore, Jess. I train now. When you get to your 40s, you have to train a little bit differently to make sure you can stay on the field. But
That's fair. That's fair. I got 5 more years till I get there. So
yeah, yeah. Um, I think anyone who kind of plays on the O line or D line on our team are pretty strong ladies for the most part.
Nice.
It's
And
it's hard
last,
because like we're getting right into our season right now. So in some cases, like we don't even know who everyone might be yet.
yes, everyone's coming in, and I guess
Yeah,
your season starts from,
we
is
have a
it
spring
May?
summer
Your
season.
spring
Yeah,
season. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, so you're just getting into it.
yeah.
And the last one here, who who is the funniest on the team? So when it comes to those away games on the bus, who's the one that's spitting the most jokes?
Oh my God, these are hard. We sleep a lot on the bus
yeah.
when
Well,
we
especially
like.
because last year it was kind of a bit more clicky than usual,
Yeah,
But I was being a youngin'.
we also had that weird trip last year where on that Smoky game. So no, we all knew the game was going to get canceled when we got to Edmonton, but because of our league bylaws, we had to get on the bus and drive 3 hours to sit in the team room for 30 minutes for the game to be canceled because of smoke. Otherwise, we would have been fined $7,000 by our league
Oh wow.
or
All right. Well, that
something
needs to be fixed.
ridiculous. Like, yeah, they've actually like the league is now addressing that because it was obviously like, it was a smoke bylaw that had never been tested in like all the years that we, have been playing games. So, you figure that out sometimes. But who is like, do we really have a clownster, a jokester on the team, Jess, like that?
Yeah, no.
Like,
I would say, like, JoJo or, like,
yeah, Jolene
Amira.
is
Amira's
pretty like
hilarious.
jovial.
Never actually spend a lot of time with her.
Who's that?
Amira.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, young. Well, let's go with Jolene. Let's put Jolene on that
Okay.
pedestal.
Joey. All right, nice.
Yeah.
Jolene.
That's awesome. I wanted to ask if you to see the team dynamic there and everything. And I guess my last question before I hand it back to Tej, to feed off those away games and the bus trips, is there a particular movie that is voted on or frequently played?
Like,
Oh, well, we can't afford movies on our bus, right? Do you know how expensive buses got after COVID?
Yeah, yeah. You know what? That's the whole other topic. That's one thing we got to talk to these bus companies.
oh
No
my
way a bus should
God.
be costing 6-7 grand. Where,
For
yikes! But
48 hours.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah,
they're trying. They're
Yeah, you guys are nuts. So anyone that knows me knows I just don't go on buses anymore. So I it's crippling. Honestly, it's crippling anxiety since the Humboldt thing. So I have
yes.
not ridden a bus
Mm.
since. I do not. Here's the thing, okay. And any one of my teammates is probably laughing right now, but I don't take buses. I drive anywhere, so I actually convinced my team last year to just scrap the bus altogether and carpool. And the team, instead of paying $7,000 a bus, can get $2,000 worth of gas cards and just give everyone, $150 of gas cards. And so that's what we started doing. I can't get on a bus, so I think everyone just kind of needs to get away with it. Also, and I don't mean to be rude to bus drivers, but I'm just gonna put this out here. A lot of times these dudes are like pretty old and are driving in the middle of the night for long hours. And I just don't know if that is the safest thing in
Yeah.
the world for people. So that's just
Well,
kind of my thought on it. Nothing again. I'm not trying to be ageist or nothing, but like those guys are closer to a heart attack than, a guy that's 30 years old and driving the bus. I just am saying it's always old retired guys. It freaks me out. I love those people. You're great people. So I hope no one gets offended by that, but whatever. We live in
Well,
a
and I
world,
do
whatever.
think that's where some of the rules around driving had changed since the Humboldt bus accident. Like that's why they are more expensive because now trips just take longer because there's more rules in place around the rest of the drivers that they require for those. But like if we're gonna go, I think like we usually have probably like the Water Boy and Happy Gilmore. I'm an Adam Sandler sports movie fan, so if we have anything in that genre. I'm a pretty happy camper. But I don't actually even think we watched any movies last year in 2023. I don't think we
No, we
had
definitely
buses that
didn't.
were equipped with working DVD players anymore or anything.
$7,000, but the DVD players
Yeah.
don't work.
Yeah, the
That's great.
TVs were out of commission.
Um, Aaron, tell us a little bit about. I'm curious, and I'm sure our listeners are. Tell us a little bit about your league. So, how many teams are in your league? What is your when does your season start? When does it end? Because you mentioned a Saskatchewan team, so obviously you play other provinces. So, just kind of give us a little breakdown of how the league works.
Sure. So our league is the WWCFL, the Western Women's Canadian Football League.
Okay, right.
Officially became a league in, I believe, 2011 was the first year that we ran as an organized league. Before that, the teams that actually made up our league would kind of do friendlies and things like that against each other. But there's two teams in Winnipeg, the Fearless and the Wolfpack. I do believe the Wolfpack is taking this year off, kind of like to rebuild, and it's kind of hard with two teams in the same city. Then Saskatoon has the Valkyries, and Regina has the Riot. So those four teams make up the Prairie Conference in the WWCFL. And then the Western Conference is currently the Calgary Rage, the Edmonton Storm, and the Lethbridge Steel. We used to have a Grand Prairie team, but they were just it was hard to keep them sustainable because they were just so far away from us. But there's always been interest in the Grand Prairie area as well. And us three teams in Alberta, we make up the Western Conference.
Okay, and so when you play your regular season, do you play against the Saskatchewan Winnipeg teams, or are you just
Not
sticking
an
with?
Yeah. So we tried cross conference for a couple seasons, but it was just too expensive for all the teams. So
Yeah.
we went back to just playing within our own conferences until the championship game. Depending on exposure and possibly avenues of funding in the future, like some of that could change. But again, we're all on our own. Like we exist in the WWCFL as our league to play in, but we're all responsible for our own fundraising and things like that. And there's getting things are improving on that front. The league is currently working towards, improving its social media exposure and helping the teams out more from a league perspective, just for recognition and awareness and things like that. But it's been a slow build, and we've seen that the Saskatchewan teams have really dominated in our league, pretty much since its inception. So a little more parity over the next few years, and hopefully getting a Western champion at some point in the next few seasons will be really good for our league.
Has a Western team ever won the championship?
No, no, and
Okay.
it's only been Saskatoon and Regina are the two teams, and I think
Okay.
Regina's only won it once. Like it's literally been Saskatoon and yeah, I think they've won 8 out of the
All right. Well,
12.
we're turning this around. This is
Right?
this is the Alberta Football Uncensored
Right?
podcast. So
Boom.
we're turning this around. You know what? I've got some connections with some good girl athletes. We're gonna figure this out because
Love it. Send them our way.
this is just boring at this point. Having
Yeah.
Saskatchewan, you don't get any more. You don't need any more. Your league sounds very similar to Omari and I's league, the Alberta Football League, in the fact that each team is basically responsible for themselves. So how many games? How many games do you play? Do you play 2 against each of the teams in your conference, or 3, or how many games
Yeah,
do you
we
guys get?
do. So yeah, each have a home and home. So we play Lethbridge there. They come play us, and same for Edmonton. So we each get 3 games, and then playoffs begin. Um, and then from there, there's the I think all the teams in our conference make the playoffs because there's just 3 of us, but then it just comes down to who hosts those games. If you
Right.
finish first, you get a bye to the conference championship, and then from there, there's the championship game. So
Yeah.
that is, I think, max 6 games, and they start typically near the end of April. We'll have like a jamboree or a friendly of some sort, maybe a preseason game the odd time, and then our season usually starts the last week of April or the first week of May, and then we're always done by the end of June, so we can all enjoy 2 months of summer. So that is a nice thing about our league. It's a compressed schedule. It's a big
Yeah.
push for through March through the end of June, but then once that's done, it's nice and sailing, and then we just kind of focus on continue to recruit and then obviously fundraise and that kind of thing outside of those times. So
Yeah, and that's I mean, that's I kinda like that too. Like we're a little bit later starting, and we go pretty deep, but, and I mean, I'm gonna be coming up. I'm not like you, Aaron. I don't really want to play till I'm 50. Getting really in. I've been just getting really into golf lately. So I like golf's kind of getting me the itch, and seems a little safer on my body.
yeah,
And
but you
I've played
probably
golf for
played
25
like when
years.
did you start playing though? Like
I started playing football. This is gonna be my like 22nd year in a row
exactly.
besides COVID
Yeah.
playing
So you
football.
started as a pee-wee kind of bantam player and
Yeah,
right.
yeah,
And that's,
yeah,
because I didn't play until I was well into adulthood in my 30s, I'm like, yeah, well, that gives me about a 20-year career. So, in
yeah.
tackle, I'll take it.
Which is perfect,
Yeah.
yeah. Yeah, and I think, but that is a kind of a nice schedule. I mean, you guys also kind of escape the really hot games too,
Hmm.
you kinda like maybe a little cold, but it's probably pretty warm by the time you guys get going, and because I know there's spring football out there too. Are
Yeah.
you guys practicing right now? Like, are you indoors in that Calgary dome?
We were supposed to actually start on the 18th, but we had a couple things that set us back just getting started this year. So we had to. I think we start our practices in the Encana Dome the last week of March.
March 25th.
Yeah, the last week of March there. So we
Oh,
are
sweet.
fortunate we get the Encana Dome. We were there a little bit last year. We did a few things there, and I think we're in there for the month of April pretty much for like the first part of April, and then we'll be out at the Stampeder Fields in the southeast there. They have graciously allowed us to use their fields a couple times a week during our season. So
Oh, that's great. So you guys have a
mhm,
great practice facility, which is
mhm,
always important. Getting practicing on turf and which is the same, service you play on is obviously a big advantage.
totally.
Jessica, with you not playing this year, what is your biggest goal with the group this year? Not results oriented, winning or losing, but what are you really trying to accomplish with both the Calgary Rage and women's football while you take this year off?
I just wanna see more fans in the stands. I wanna see more people excited to come out. Like, last year after a game, I went to work and, like, some random guy comes up to me, he's like, "Yo, you guys killed it," and I was like, "How do you recognize me? Like, I'm at work as a doorman and then you recognize me without my helmet off?" Anyways, it was super cool. So, and like so many people that I talk to just like literally don't know that women's football is a thing. And then I talk to some other people and they're like, "Man, I love watching your team." And I've even had like a few people say they'd rather go watch professional women's football over CFL. And that's not a shot at anybody, but it's the truth. Like it's the truth. Like, right? Like how can you not want to see women smashing football? Like it's great.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, no, you're right, and I think, I'm like I said, just talking to you 2 tonight has made me very curious about making sure that I get out and see this thing, and I think Omari will talk, but maybe meeting up for a Calgary Rage game and doing some sort of live broadcast with
Mm.
that, just to really bring that exposure to the league, because I think it is one of the, like I said, I'm a lover of women's sports. I have so much appreciation for the respect that women give sports. I'm a big like I like people that respect sports in the way that they're supposed to be respected. I could probably talk for a long time about that, but I've always found, like I said, coaching women, that women, I don't ever have to deal with or have conversations with women not respecting the integrity of the game, not understanding the gratitude that they have to be out there playing the game. It's just, these are conversations that I often do have to have, especially with young boys, because that can get a little bit forgotten. So I'm really hoping we can build it up and get more out there. So we'll try to figure out something like that. Aaron, what's your biggest goal outside of the team? What would be your biggest goal with women's football? Jessica mentioned more fans, more exposure, but what you've been around it for so long, you've seen where it was and now where it is now. Where would you like to see this game when you do turn 50 in 5 years?
Oh man, I want to see the Calgary Rage with a roster of 50 athletic players 2 to 3 positional deep across the board. Coaches, I think it at our level of football, especially in the early years, you kind of got what you got and you didn't get upset because, I remember like T and I joke about this all the time. We had a guy named Eugene that walked off a bus once when we were practicing out at Central. Literally was riding the bus. He saw this practicing. He walked up. He's like, "You guys need a football coach?" Right. And we already had coaches, but he literally was just like, and he stayed around for like a month or two. And then all of a sudden one day he was gone. And so for me, my goal is it was so weird. His name was Eugene. If he ever, hears this podcast, like, yo, Eugene, you're awesome.
All right, we're gonna send the people out. Let's find Eugene,
Yeah,
everybody.
let's find Eugene. But like I think for me personally, it's continuing to see our coaches develop, the types of coaches that we can get. We've been so blessed with great men who have come through our program and helped steer the ship in some way and have always helped us level up. But not everyone sticks, right? Not everyone's the right fit. And I find, I'm like you, it takes a really specific kind of individual who can coach women well. And when you're coming into the Calgary Rage, you're not just coaching adult women, you're coaching teenage young women who are coming up and they're 16 to I think our oldest player this year is going to be 48, actually a little older than me. So, you've got the gamut there. So I really look to seeing our coaching staff continue to develop and in turn that grow even more interest from the raid from the players who want to continue to start to be a part of this team. I think there's the sky is the limit. But for me, a roster of 50 that can compete with anyone in this country, that's my vision.
Yeah, and that's an amazing vision to have, I think, for any team, and especially with growing the sport. How do you think we get there? Like, what do you think are some, tangible things that can be done by, people who do care? And now I know you definitely have a fan in me, and I'm going to help where I can. And Omari, I know, is always just helping with football. But what are some really tangible things that people can do
I think
to help grow the game?
number one, I think our school systems, our high school systems, our junior high systems have to be a little more open to having a team like the Rage come and talk to their female athletes about what could be outside of high school sports for them. I'd also like to see the same thing happen in post-secondary. A lot of times you'll hear that, coaches don't want us to recruit or talk to players, because if there's post-secondary athletes, like I totally get that. Like if you're a second to fourth year university athlete, I don't want you on the Rage, but I want you after your fifth year when your next sporting opportunity is going to open up. Unless you're going to go to the WNBA or overseas to play basketball, what's your next stop as an athlete? Football could be that next stop. And a lot of times it's those post-secondary institutions that they get threatened by the fact that a sport that's not part of them wants to come and recruit into those institutions. And we're not looking for your athletes. We're looking for your people who used to be athletes. Where are they going next? Help us get them, and that's been, for me, that's been a frustration as someone who got to see that university athletes did other stuff to stay in shape even during their sports seasons. I really want us to have better avenues to say to those fourth and fifth year players, listen, the spectrum of sport is so wide open to you after you're done your fifth year of eligibility. Come to us. We can help you continue your sporting career. That's where I'd like to see us put a lot of effort and just open those pathways a little more.
And what I find interesting about that too is even on the men's side, but probably even more so on the women's side, after you're done playing, university competitive sports, outside of going pro, which is, 0.01% of the population, what is there really to do? Because if you really think about it, for men's and women's sports, everything is quote unquote beer league recreation. The only thing that I can make a tangible argument that is not beer league and recreation is football, because it's impossible to have beer league football. You cannot do it. If you do, you're going to get people hurt. You cannot go play, like you can show up and play a hockey game pissed drunk. a men's league hockey game and women's league hockey game pitch drunk. You can do it. You can get away with it. Baseball, softball, soccer, no one really cares. You can't do that in football. You're not, it is a sport where you have to practice 2 times a week. You don't practice with your beer league hockey team. You don't practice with your men's and women's league basketball teams. You're not practicing with the slow pitch teams. That's for sure.
No, you're showing
You
up.
just show up 10 minutes before the game starts. You strap up, you're half drunk, and you play. Right. But football is that ability where it's like, hey, you're a competitive athlete. You're not going pro anywhere, but you still want to have that kind of like regimen of we're practicing. We've got coaches. We're getting better every single day. We're traveling to places. We've got a unity. We've got that family, all the things that you love about sports. I only think once you become into that quote unquote recreation, men's, women's, football is really the only thing that is relatable to those high level university sports, right? So I think that explaining that to those women, and you mentioned it before, I look at basketball athletes, soccer athlete, like basketball in general. I've always said, I'm a basketball and football coach for a reason, because it translates. Like I can coach the similar footwork and skill work in both sports. You know what I mean? Like a pivot foot's a pivot foot in both sports. And often people, I talk pivot foot in football, and people are like, what do you pivot foot? Well, no, hold on. Think about this for a second, right? Like when you're standing on a wide receiver on a line and you want to make a step move on a jam, like your back foot is your pivot foot. So how do you use that otherwise? So I talk about these stuff all the time. So I think getting out to those universities, getting out to the high schools, and it might not be for all women, but allowing them to know that, hey, this is an opportunity. Why not come and try it out? You might not like it, but you might love it. So I'm all with you on that one. Just like spreading the news and, hey, we exist. I mean, we have that problem even in the Alberta Football League, and it's men's, of like, we exist. There's a league. People, how often, Omari, have we talked to people and they're like, we didn't even know the Alberta Football League existed, and now it's just amazing.
I
It's the
literally
best
get
thing
that.
ever happened to me.
I literally get that like 2
right?
times a week minimum.
Oh, and that's with men. So imagine what we could be doing with women, right? So just spreading that word. So those listening to the podcast, let's get out. Let's support. This podcast is definitely going to support the Women's League, and let's get out there and watch it and see what this is all about. And hey, I would say this fully. If you're a coach and you don't have a place to coach, or you want to build your coaching, reach out to one of these women's teams if you're in Edmonton or Calgary or Lethbridge, and ask if they need help coaching, because you're going to become a better coach. It just is what it is. You're dealing with different types of athletes. You're dealing with women, and they're going to make you a better coach, because you're going to have to be a better coach, not just in your temperament, not just in the way you go about it, but in your ability to teach. Because you don't, like you said, Aaron, you weren't playing football when you were 8 years old, like a lot of boys were, right? So by the time I get the kids that I see in high school, they've been playing football for 10 years. So there's a lot of things that I don't have to worry about as much, right? So growing the game. So I really think that's cool. Omar, you got anything else?
I wanted to speed up what you were saying, to where like football has that ability to where you can still play competitively after. And I think the other dynamic that I really noticed is you're still able to progress your life. You typically, in front of when it's a career, outside of like in this, because most of the time when you're playing junior university sports, you don't really get a chance to identify yourself, or like loosen your identity from your sport or your career. But what I really noticed, especially coming out of junior when I was with the Colts, was I was able to actually like re-identify myself, like, hey, like get into business, and this is what I'm like, and all my pursuits and passions, and still have football in my life, but at a different capacity that allow me to fit in my life, where I can still move forward and not have it like, oh, I'm just training for football, I'm doing all this for football. Like, oh no, I still get to play football, but look at all these other things I'm doing. So that's one thing I really appreciate our league that has AFL, and I'm sure the women's league that is still a spot where, for those, as I will say to those girls who are listening to this, who are in those 5th-year university options of the eligibility, this is a great way to where you can still have your career, different sport, but still compete at a high level, which is hard to move away from. Where to go from competing every day, morning workouts, you got study hall, you got that team chemistry, then to go to nothing, versus going to now a team like the Rage, like the Steel, like the Edmonton, and just still having that and be like, oh wow, I can do that internship, I can commit to my job, I can still all do these things and still have the best of both worlds. So that's really an area that I really notice, and hopefully that gives a university athlete listening to this, that missing piece of like, okay, like I want to look at this.
Well, and to build on that, that's an excellent point, and even to build on that further, there's still pathways for those athletes in that age group for Team Canada. There's still pathways for the senior women's football program, right? So, and that
Mhm.
happens every 2 to 4 years. So just because you're a university athlete and you think your competitive, life is done that way, it's not. If you're interested in football, with the Olympics flag football, I'm pretty sure the adult open competition for the Olympic team for flag is going to be an open competition. Like, I don't know that team is going to be formed just off like a little mini tryout or anything. Like, I'm not sure, but there's pathways to still play at an elite world championship level with football. And that's what's so amazing about it.
I think that's a great point too, because I can tell you, I don't know when it is or if that's true, if that's what you're true, if that's true about the men's as well, but I'm going to be looking for a way to try out for that
I
team.
am
I
too.
don't
I
even
want to be a
care.
center.
Yeah, and that look, I don't even care because I like make it or not make it. Like I want to be a part of that experience. So
Exactly.
whenever can find out more information on how they're going to pick that team and that type of stuff, like I think and if you, especially if you're a girl or a young woman or a woman and you're wanting to represent your country and put on a Team Canada jersey or possibly go to the Olympics, which is in Los Angeles. So you don't even have to go that far for
Yeah.
2028 Olympics when flag football gets introduced. What a great opportunity. What a great time to get involved in football because you've got, a couple years to tone your skills, especially if you're already decently athletic. And there's not just as much competition right now. So I think right now is just such a perfect time for women and girls. I think what you said, 16 and up can play rage. So to get involved with football, and even if you're a little bit worried about the tackling or the part of it, even though I would say personally I've seen more injuries in basketball than I have in football, to be honest with you. But if you're worried about that, try something like a flag football. There's flag football in everywhere. Try something like touch football. See what it is. Talk to people. I think it's such a great opportunity, a great time. I think you guys are going to get what you want, Aaron. I think you're going to see these big rosters with women because I think once people kind of get the football bug and they realize how amazing it is, it's hard to kind of let that go. Obviously, you're still playing, and Jessica, wishing that she would have known about the Montreal team and now doing everything she's doing and being a part of it, even though she's not able to play. It's just amazing. And I'll kind of let you guys just kind of quickly have a little open mic before we end. So Jessica, I'll start with you. Anything else you'd like to add or anything you'd like to say before we close the podcast?
Yeah, I just have one thing to say about like how we're moving forward. And I believe you guys will be speaking to him, so I'm not going to throw any spoilers out, but I'm just really excited for our new head coach. I think he really cares about growing our team and growing women's football in general. And he has so much knowledge to bring to us. And I'm just really excited for 2024.
Awesome. Aaron, any closing remarks?
Yeah, I want to echo kind of just what Jess said. Like, onwards and upwards. We learned a lot of lessons in 2023, and I think that we have a good group of people who are looking to build an even stronger football club in 2024. And as always, our goal is to just get as many young women and female athletes playing tackle football as possible, and any form of football. But for us right now in this moment, tackle football is what we're focused on, and you know we're there, we're here. We want you to be a part of our club. Heck, if you don't want to play, we need stats people. We need people to help us on game day. We need people to help us fundraise. Come and be a part of our football organization. No matter where you land, we will find a place for you.
Where can people find you guys, find information?
Our website is calgaryrage.ca. So our schedule is posted on there, and our general email is on there as well. Or if not, then we're on Instagram at Calgary Rage Official or _official. And I'm on there pretty much every day religiously. So if you got a question, I'll be happy to answer.
Okay, we'll make sure we link all that stuff when we come out with our promos and everything, so that everyone has a place to find you. Yeah, if you're listening, please reach out to the Calgary Rage if you're interested. It like I said, it's just no better time than now to pull that trigger if you've ever been thinking of it. I'm really glad we were able to do this episode, Amari. I'm glad that you were able to talk to them and get them on here, and I appreciate Jessica and Aaron, you guys taking the time to come in and spread the news. I'm sure we'll have you guys on again during your season, because we're going to want to, keep this going. We don't want to just be a one-off, so we'll kind of keep updated with your season and talk about how things are going. And like I said, I'm going to definitely make it out to a game, and Omari and I try to do something with that. So I really appreciate you two coming on here and explaining what it is to be a women's football player and to talk about your goals and aspirations for the future. And I hope we can help you hit that. Omari, anything else?
I
Close
just
us
want
out.
to thank Jess for reaching out and setting this up. And, I know she's going to be in her new role here as the communication director with the Rage and everything. And I know it's a different look this year, but I bet she's going to kill it and bring a lot of eyes to the Rage here. But no, I want to thank you again. And I mean, just to send us off here, any last message at all, or anyone you want to shout out quick? Jess and Aaron?
Oh man, I just want to shout out our team. I want everyone who listens to this to get pumped for women's football for 2024, and yeah, let's have some fun. Let's crush it.
Hell yeah, I love it.
Yeah.
Get pumped for football in
Get pumped.
2024.
Get
I
pumped
love
for
it.
football in
Yeah.
I love
2024.
it. Yeah,
That's awesome.
that's great.
Well, hey, appreciate everyone tuning in. For those who listening, you can find us here on Spotify, Apple Music, Google Podcasts, anywhere where you get your podcast. We love it that we're heading into that springtime football, summertime football. The snow's melting away. You can get out, run routes. You can, the weather's just to warm up. So football weather is definitely in the air. Hope everyone's off season is going well. And, for the girls who are listening to this, we look forward to seeing you guys make plays and bring a championship home to the west, to the prairie side, and bring it home to Calgary, and let this be a good year of football for everyone at all levels.
Appreciate it, Amari. Just a quick note, our podcast, we're growing rapidly. We're always looking for sponsors. So if you're a business or you're interested in sponsoring our podcast, please let us know. We've helped a bunch of different people out with that. So please reach out if you're interested in sponsoring the podcast, or if you're interested on being on the podcast. We're always willing to listen and talk to people about football or whatever it might be to help grow the game in Alberta. Thanks again for listening. Please check out our social medias, follow us, and please share and tell people about our podcast. It is how we get it out to the masses to grow and spread the word of football in Alberta, both men's and women's. So appreciate you, everyone listening. Thank you, Amari. Thank you, Aaron. Thank you, Jessica. Everybody have a great night.
Thank you.
Thank you. You guys,
Absolutely.
that was awesome.
Take care, guys.
Most of us hear a game plan for football, but won't financially plan out our lives. 1 in 4 Canadians are unable to cover an unexpected expense of over $500. This is due to Canadians currently having concerns over things like debt, cash flow concerns, retirement concerns, and possibly even job security. And for some of the young Canadians out there, they always wonder on what does it take or what does it look like to get started. My name is Omari Fraser, and I've been in the financial services industry for just shy of 10 years. I'm fortunate to be in a spot to where I'm able to help educate fellow Canadians on what you can do to move forward and get yourself in a spot that's going to take you to your financial goals. Feel free to reach out to me at 403-467-2306 or reach out to me on Instagram to get the conversation started and taking a look at what a financial plan looks like for you. Take care. Enjoy the episode.
If you are looking to buy or sell a home in the central Alberta area, please check out Dan Johnson with Coldwell Banker, On Track Realty, and the Pure Realty Group. They service all of central Alberta and will be happy to assist you with all your realty needs. Registration is now open for both of my spring camps. I run Tejas Sports Academy, a sports academy right here in Sylvan Lake. Currently, I have registration open for my spring basketball and spring football camps. You can go to Tejas Sports Academy on Facebook for all details, including registration link, costs, dates, times, etc. Tejas Sports Academy on Facebook.